Young and the Restless spoilers. Daniel's frustration had reached its boiling point. Days had passed with no word of Heather, no clues about her whereabouts, except for the eerie, vague messages he had received. Messages that seemed to mock him, leading him nowhere but deeper into a pit of despair. His patience had run dry. The gnawing fear of the unknown was driving him mad, and in his desperation, he turned his attention to Sharon Newman. Why Sharon? She had a history with Heather, and something about the way her name kept circling in his mind made him think she knew more than she let on. The pieces didn't add up, and Daniel was determined to find out why. He stormed into Sharon's house, his voice already trembling with rage. "Where is she, Sharon?" he screamed, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Where is Heather? What have you done with my wife?" Sharon, startled by the force of his arrival, stood frozen for a moment. She blinked at Daniel as if she didn't understand what was happening. "Daniel, I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, trying to mask her fear. But there was something off in her demeanor, something that made Daniel even more suspicious. "Don't lie to me," Daniel roared, stepping closer to her. He grabbed her arm, his desperation palpable. "I know you have something to do with this. Where is she?" Sharon pulled back, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. "I swear, Daniel, I don't know anything. I'm just as much a victim as you are." She was playing the victim, trying to hide behind the fragile facade she often used to manipulate people. But Daniel wasn't buying it, not this time. In his fury, Daniel shook her, desperate for answers. "You're lying. You've always been a liar, Sharon. Just tell me where she is." As he tugged at her, something slipped from her pocket and fell to the ground with a faint thud. Daniel looked down, and his heart nearly stopped. There, lying on the floor between them, was Heather's phone. A pink iPhone, the very one that had gone missing with her. His eyes widened in disbelief. "What the hell?" he muttered, kneeling down to pick up the phone. This is Heather's phone. How do you have this?" Sharon's face went ashen. She stumbled backward, her mouth opening and closing as if she was searching for an excuse but couldn't find one. Panic surged through her, and for the first time, her mask of innocence began to slip. "Explain it, Sharon," Daniel demanded, his voice breaking with grief and rage. "Tell me why you have her phone. What are you hiding?" Before Sharon could respond, Mariah and Nick rushed into the room, having heard the commotion. Mariah grabbed Daniel's arm, trying to calm him down. "Daniel, you need to stop. This isn't helping." Nick stepped between them, his face filled with concern. "Daniel, we all want answers, but attacking Sharon isn't going to get them. Just calm down." But Daniel couldn't calm down. He couldn't unsee the evidence right in front of him. "Calm down?" he spat, his voice shaking. "My wife is dead, and her phone is in Sharon's hands. What else am I supposed to think?" Mariah looked at Sharon, her eyes full of confusion and suspicion. "Mom, what's going on? Why do you have Heather's phone?" Sharon shook her head violently, her breathing ragged. "I don't know. I don't know how it got there. I swear, I didn't do anything." Her voice was high-pitched, verging on hysteria, but Daniel wasn't convinced. He could feel the lies radiating off her. "You expect me to believe that?" he shouted. "Heather's phone didn't just magically appear in your pocket, Sharon. Tell the truth for once in your life." Sharon's panic escalated, her mind racing as she struggled to keep her story straight. The pressure was too much for her fragile state. "I don't know. I don't know anything," she shrieked, her hands clutching her head as if trying to block out the reality crashing down around her. Suddenly, her body began to shake uncontrollably, her breath coming in ragged gasps. It was clear to everyone in the room that Sharon was unraveling, her mind cracking under the weight of her lies and the situation spiraling out of control. She began to scream incoherently, her voice full of terror and confusion. Nick, alarmed, rushed to her side, trying to calm her down. "Sharon, it's okay. We'll figure this out. Just breathe." But Sharon wasn't listening. She was lost in her own panic, her eyes wild and unfocused. The stress of the moment had pushed her over the edge, and everyone in the room could see it. Nick quickly made the decision to call for help, and within minutes the paramedics arrived, followed by a doctor from Genoa City Memorial. Sharon was sedated, a needle slipping into her arm to calm her escalating hysteria. As the doctors wheeled Sharon away to the hospital, Daniel stood in the middle of the room, still clutching Heather's phone in his hand. His mind was spinning. Nothing made sense anymore. His wife was dead, Sharon was having a breakdown, and yet, somehow, the pieces of this puzzle weren't fitting together. Mariah placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft but steady. "We'll get to the bottom of this, Daniel, but attacking Sharon isn't the answer." Daniel turned to her, his face a mask of grief. How could she have Heather's phone? How? Mariah shook her head, just as confused as he was. "I don't know, but we need to let the doctors figure out what's going on with her. She's not well." As they stood in the aftermath of the chaos, Daniel felt his anger shift into a deep, aching sorrow. He had lost his wife, and now, the only link to finding out what had happened seemed to be falling apart before his eyes. But one thing was clear. Sharon had some kind of connection to Heather's disappearance, whether she realized it or not. And Daniel wasn't going to stop until he uncovered the truth. Even if it meant confronting the darkest parts of Sharon's past and unraveling the lies that had built up over years. As the night closed in, Daniel knew one thing for certain. This was far from over. Sharon's breakdown might have been the result of guilt, but it could also be a cover for something much more sinister. And Daniel wasn't about to let her off the hook until he knew exactly what had happened to Heather. The question remained, how long could Sharon keep up her charade? How many more lies could she spin before the truth finally broke through the cracks? And when it did, what would be left of her and of the shattered lives around her?